What is going on, YouTube people? Another edition of the weekly sports card market update is upon us. No shows for me this weekend. I didn't really have much going on. Took the weekend off, gearing up for potentially a big weekend next weekend. I believe next Saturday, the 4th, is the Washington PA show, which is a larger show that's kind of popped up over the last year or so around me. I've gone a couple times now. And on that same night, Washington, PA, down near Pittsburgh, Card Collector 2's first trade night of the year is that night as well. I got to check the weather later in the week, so I might pull the doubleheader, take the trip down towards Pittsburgh, and then haul my butt on over to Columbus for the Card Collector 2 trade night. It'd be a very long day in the car. It's about 2 hours to Pittsburgh to where the show is. From there to Columbus is about 2 hours, and then Columbus to home is another 2 hours. So a lot of road time potentially next Saturday. We'll see what I get up to. Maybe I'll just go to the Pittsburgh show and skip the trade night. Maybe I'll do the trade night and skip the show. We'll see. But there'll be something card related next weekend for sure. This weekend is also the Expo, the Toronto, the big, huge Canada version of the National. If anyone was at that show, feel free to fire away in the comments down below. Give me a vibe check. I haven't heard a ton. I don't know anyone that, well, I know people that are there, but I haven't talked to anyone that's there to get a vibe. So if you were at that show, feel free to fire away down below what that show was like, what was moving, what was shaking. I assume I'll be stereotypical here. Hockey was very popular. Connor Bedard stuff was probably all over the place. But yeah, if you were at the show up in Toronto this weekend, fire away in the comments down below. I have also, I think I talked about this on Off Centered. I have officially locked down Fanatics Fest. Hotel is booked, ticket is purchased. So I will be going to Fanatics Fest in New York City a couple weeks after the National. In between that, we have the Shipshawana show and Heroes Con. I am still 50-50 on ships. The Monday shows are always tough for me. And then Heroes Con in June. Before we dig in too much, shout out to channel partner ComC. They have a big Marvel / non-sport auction coming up at the end of the month that I am super excited for. I also have a big ComC mail day coming. Hopefully early part of this week. Actually, I think that package is supposed to arrive Tuesday. I cashed in some store credit, won a really nice LeBron rookie. If you follow me on social, you already know which one I am talking about, but I got a nice PSA 9 LeBron rookie coming in the mail and a handful of other stuff. I've been picking up some odds and ends of stuff, but doing a little bit of baseball prospecting with some local guys. We'll get into that when that mail package arrives. But shout out to channel partner ComC for sponsoring the weekly sports card market update and all the weekly sports card market updates on the channel. One last thing to mention, 87 days, 86 by the time you're all watching this, from the National. That's right, she's creeping up fast. And you know what that means? It's time for every content creator under the sun to start making videos telling you to get your comfortable shoes, get some water, get some snacks, load up a backpack, and get ready to rock and roll. Are you coming to my backyard or not? And I guess rock and roll. You can go pun intended on that one because we got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame not too terribly far away from the National. Let's go ahead and dig into some stuff from this week. Busy week in the sports world. We had the NFL draft. We had the NBA playoffs. My Cavaliers have sucked since they went to Orlando 2-2. I am recording this as the Celtics are putting a beat down on the Heat. Lakers Nuggets is about to tip off. I assume LeBron is heading home. Interesting kind of talking point. I heard, I think it was Hoop Collective might have been talking about this, or maybe one of the Ringer NBA podcasts. This kind of feels like the changing of the guard. You know, LeBron seems from a winning championships seems done. Kevin Durant seems done. Steph Curry seems done, at least as the star player on the team. and winning NBA championships. Now, can those three guys still be very successful in the NBA and make the playoffs and, make little runs and stuff like that? Yes, but I don't think they could be the best player on a championship team anymore. Maybe Curry could, but I don't know. He looked like he was even slowing down. So it feels like it's kind of a changing of the guard. Boy, oh boy, the Bucks. Damian Lillard hurt. Giannis still not back yet. It looks like the Pacers are going to be moving on in that series as well. But fun stuff going on in the NBA playoffs. We'll talk a few NBA card prices here in a hot minute. A lot of news this week. A lot of hobby news this week. Mostly PSA related. We had the fake Victors. We had some Tops Now stuff. Let's go ahead and dive in first. This is the video that I did yesterday about the fake Victor Prisms. Not too much more to add to this other than just kind of do a signal boost on this. If you're dealing with base Wembies, just be a little extra careful. Take a good, close look at it. Maybe compare it to a 2023 Prism card that you know is legitimate. Once again, I haven't had one of these in my hand, so I don't know if there's a real good way at detection. In yesterday's video, some people were commenting that the Spurs part of the jersey looked a little wrong. I need to sit down and compare it to a legit one, find like one that's graded in a PSA 10. But like I said in yesterday's video, you would think these things have started to filter through the grading company. So I'd be very curious to know if anything is getting kicked back as suspect. And I would be, depending on how good or bad these things are, can these get past some of the grading companies, but not all of them, depending on how good or bad their fraud detection stuff is for catching things like this. Be a little careful out there. That's all I'll say. If you're dealing in Victor-based prisms, be a little careful out there. And, people in the comments pointed out yesterday that this is kind of the perfect card to go after because it's a base card. So if a bunch of them get put into circulation, people aren't necessarily going to red flag it right away. But it's one of the rare cases in the modern side of things that the base card actually has a decent amount of value. That hasn't been the case, for a hot minute, especially on a Chrome card for a base, where it would be worth the hassle of going through this to print these. But looks like we have a perfect storm brewing with this one. And maybe there's just a handful of these things. Maybe a lot of those ones listed on China coming from eBay are all 100% legitimate, but just be careful out there if you are dealing base Wembies. PSA, we talked about graders notes. They were kind of the big news of the week, in my opinion. There was a lot of stuff from that interview that we did not talk about. So once again, I would encourage you to go back and filter through that interview. There was tons and tons of nuggets. The graders notes was my biggest takeaway from it, just given I've been a big, I don't know what I want to call it, proponent for graders notes. It's something I've been wanting to see for a while. I don't submit a lot of high-end stuff, but I do think it is something that you should get if you are submitting a high-end card. You should know why it did not grade a 10, given the fees that you're paying specifically at PSA because of the declared values. It'll be interesting to kind of see how these roll out, how they're received, and I hope they eventually trickle down to the lower service tiers. Couple other interesting nuggets. The two other big takeaways I had from this interview with Ryan Hogue and Jeff Wilson was the fact that they want all orders regardless of service level. Their goal, their internal goal, is to have all service levels back in your hands in under 30 calendar days. And he admits, they're backed up on vintage. They're backed up on autograph authentication, which I know are still two pain points for submitters. On Ultra Modern, on these last couple specials, now I haven't sent anything in about a month. I'm hoping, anyways, fingers crossed, I have some stuff to send in here in a couple weeks when we finally get Bowman in our hands. But my last few orders to start 2024 have been very close to that 30-day turnaround time that he is reaching for. If they can consistently hit that on lower value orders, like whatever their current special is that they're running for, let's just call it anywhere from, I don't know, $15 to $18, whether it's TCG, sports, whatever. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the other guys because, as we've talked in the past, like SGC specifically, their biggest advantage was turnaround times and customer service. And turnaround times have been suffering. If anyone has recent turnaround times on SGC, like in the last week or so, that you've gotten cards back and submission dates, feel free to fire those in the comments down below to see if those have gotten any better or not. But when the turnaround time advantage comes off, I've already seen a lot of comments on like sports card nonsense and their Facebook group, take it or leave it. They have a billion people in that thing. And you do see a lot of comments about, if I can't get the speed, what am I still doing here when it comes to SGC stuff? So if PSA can legitimately hit 30 days or less for every submission, regardless of level, that's a pretty big deal. And then the other thing that he talked about, which we discussed on Off-Centered, was the card cleaning comments. And the big takeaway there is that they are actively working on detection methods. Now, he didn't say what they're looking to detect for, what aspects of cleaning they're looking to detect, whether it's all of it. Are they looking for wax? Are they looking for the juice? Are they looking for all of it? Who knows? And we probably won't know. They're going to probably try to keep that under wraps to a degree. Now, the tell will be when people start getting orders back that have a new error code on it, or maybe they use an existing one and they're not slabbing a card because they detected something on it. So we'll see where that goes. But ultimately, if they want to crack this stuff down, that is key. Can they accurately, quickly, and cost effectively catch when people are using an external product on a card besides, what did he say, water and hot breath, a little huff and puff. I like to call that the huff and puff method. Besides that, are they able to detect this stuff? And time will tell on that. Like I said, they talked about a bunch of other stuff in there. He also hinted at SGC having a new slab in the near future. He said that would be up to Peter to announce, but he made it sound like it wasn't going to be a massive change. So don't get too crazy. I would like one that felt a little bit better. I would like one that's the same size as everybody else. Ryan kind of implied that it's still probably going to be a little bit larger, so we'll see what that ends up looking like. To me, a new SGC slab, you know what that sounds like? A good announcement right before the National. You announce it, then you have it at the show, and everyone gets to put their hands on it. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a little Peter SGC IG little video talking about a new slab that is coming out sometime soon. But once again, there's a ton of other stuff in there. I would encourage you to go check out that full interview. On the NFL draft front, we had the NFL draft, and both Topps and Panini started firing away on their instant cards. Topps had the guys in their suits, and then they had a bunch of autographed cards. We have the Caleb Williams that was going for $700. I found the interesting thing here. So they made this like an RPA, essentially. They put patches in it. They're player-worn patches, and they use Bears jerseys, it looks like. So it is player-worn. So they probably had him throw some Fanatics jerseys on. So it looks like, other than the fact that, he's in his draft day suit there, the patch and stuff looks, like a legitimate RPA, other than the fact that he's not uniform and there's no official team logo on there. The other players, it looks like they went with just more standard autos. We have a Jaden Daniels, we have a Drake May, we have a Malik Neighbors for all the Fanatics exclusive guys. So remember, a lot of these guys are going to be players that you are not going to see in Panini product in regards for autographs. Price points across the board, like I said, $700 for Caleb Williams. That seems pretty pricey for a autograph with a patch. Jaden Daniels at $350, Drake May at $299, and Malik Neighbors at $249. We'll take a little closer look here at the Neighbors. And actually, the $799 or $699 does not guarantee a patch. I didn't realize that. Well, I just looked at the image on the front. So you have a chance to pull a patch. Otherwise, you get a regular one. So that's interesting there. It looks like you got about a 50-50 chance on one foiled auto on card autograph, or player worn jersey autograph. Boy, that would be a big bummer if you got just the base auto card without the patch on it. That would really suck for $6.99. But what are you going to do? Panini also had their stuff. They did sets, they did individual players. I am not going to lie. These don't look very good. They don't even have full images on any of them yet. This is the most, let me refresh this just to make sure nothing's changed since when I pulled this page up. Nope. We got JJ McCarthy in a Michigan jersey. Okay. Great. What's the most expensive one? Oh, that's going to go to all the instant garbage. This design is, I'm going to say, questionable at best. Don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about them being in their college uniforms. Like, you guys couldn't get in there and Photoshop some stuff in. Maybe they're going to do it after the fact. I doubt it. This just feels, just scrolling through, looking at these feel very Panini-like. Like, no time at all was spent putting these things together. That card frame looks absolutely hideous. Looks like something straight out of the 90s. And as someone that grew up in the 90s, that's not vibing with me. I don't know. I don't enjoy, I'm not a big, guys in suits cards. I typically avoid these like the plague. I would never order one of these. Like, I mean, look at this. This looks like a yearbook photo for Drake May. But on the flip side, I am not touching these either. At least some of the autographed cards look okay-ish. Oh, I missed this one. I didn't see the triple relic or the triple autograph. That would be a pretty good one with the 3 guys on it. $1,600. Yikes. Man, they just print money with this Topps Now stuff. They really do. Some of the baseball stuff I really like. I've said this for a while now. I am very excited for them to have the NFL, NBA, and MLB license and the stuff that they will be able to do with Now products as a fan of Cleveland teams. To be able to chase some cool stuff like that, I think will be very, very interesting. So let's go ahead and move into the charts and graphs portion of today's affair, powered by our friends over at Market Movers. Link in the description down below if you wish to check out Market Movers for yourself. First up, football. Just got done talking about the draft. I was just kind of curious to look at first Bowman autos for a lot of these guys, or Bowman autos in general for a lot of these guys, to see how things have done leading up to the NFL draft. I went back to January 1st, 2024. In most cases, things have kind of gone down other than JJ McCarthy. And this is his raw because a graded copy hadn't sold, so I went with raw. His stuff is up 74%. This is the 2023, which I don't believe is the first. It's just a regular auto. The thing with him is, I don't think a lot of people knew where he was going to go. So I'm wondering if he got a little bit more hype as he kind of moved up the draft board as the draft process moved along. You know, he kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed up. And I wonder if that affected his card prices a little bit. Everybody else has gone down from January 1st. Now, Drake May, I want to caveat one thing here. There was this one sale here for $400, and then it went down to $280. And prior to this, there wasn't any, at least in January, and I didn't go back further than that. And then it kind of sat around this $250-ish mark, and then right before the draft, it was going for the high hundreds, just under $200. And then the fact that he went to the Patriots immediately jumped it. 300, 300, 300, 3 days in a row. So that's showing that it's down. I don't know that it really is. I hate when there's like one random one-off like this and then it immediately flatlines. I could run it back further, but then you start getting more noise the further that you go back. So one thing to keep in mind there, he definitely, if you bought anywhere after, from January, February, or March, late January, February to March, you're probably up on Drake May because he got the Patriots bump. Kind of a similar pattern here with Marvin Harrison. This first one out of the gate back in January. And I wonder if these were the first couple sales in PSA 10s. I don't remember when 2023 Bowman Chrome came out. And that very well could be the case as well there. Same thing. He came out high, dropped down, and then spiked up off of, the lead up to the draft. Right at the beginning of April, he went up, and then he's actually down a little bit since the beginning of April, but up overall during this kind of down period. Caleb Williams, his stuff had been climbing and kind of leveled out around this 650-ish dollar mark. And then he got drafted, and look what happened. I'm going to shorten this up to just 7 days, and we are just going to look at Caleb Williams. Actually, I'll go back 14 days. This is a perfect example of what happens when this is my guy just won a NBA, NFL, MLB title, and his card prices are falling. Why is that? Prior to the last couple days, one of his PSA 10s was selling every couple days on occasion. Now, all of a sudden, draft day gets here. We have one sale there on the 24th. We have 7 sales on the 25th, and the card price dropped $100. And then the next day, we have one sale, and it dropped a little bit. So 25th was the day of the draft. You can put the pieces together there. Everyone had their eBay auctions probably ending for the same time, night of the draft, and there was not enough demand to support the amount of supply that was hitting the market, and it caused his prices to actually pull back. Everyone knew he was going to the Bears. That wasn't a surprise. So I'm guessing a bunch of auctions ended right at, during, before, or after the NFL draft with 7 sales on one day and caused prices to go down. Actually, we can look at that right here. Yep, there we have it. Auction, 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 auction. All these auctions ending all at the same time. Basically tanked his price a little bit. Now, we will see as we move into the season how these guys do. If one of them catches fire, do their Bowman Chrome prices hold up? Do they spike on the autos specifically, since we are not going to have Panini autos to chase? I think that's always kind of a fascinating thing to watch. We have seen Victor's first Bowman auto hold up very, very well with no licensed autos to hunt. The other big takeaway here from the draft, no charts and graphs needed for this one, 6 quarterbacks going in the first round, along with a bunch of highly touted wide receivers in Harrison, Neighbors, and Rome. That is a breaker's dream. Breaker's dream. And if you're a retail wax flipper, whatever the case might be, anything along to do with 2024 football wax is a dream come true. The one saving grace in all this is that Panini tends to run very behind on their production schedules lately. Since COVID, basically, they have yet to release a product on time for the most part, which means we probably won't get Prism football until the season's almost over. So you are going to have some sample size on some of these guys. Now, some of these quarterbacks, like Penix, we might not know a lot about, depending on if he sees the field or not. Maybe the early product gets a little hyped. By the time Prism rolls around, we will have a better feel for some of these guys if they get playing time. Maybe Drake May does or doesn't. I don't know. But Caleb Williams is probably going to. JJ McCarthy is probably going to. Daniels is probably going to get a bunch of playing time. And the wide receivers are obviously going to get a bunch of playing time. Long way of saying 2024 wax for football is probably going to be hyped. Justifiable or not, we all know what is going to happen here. Like clockwork. Let's talk a little baseball. We've been checking in on the prospects since the season started, and then we got quite the curveball this week with the Jackson Holiday news. Kid was struggling a little bit. They sent him on back down to the minors, and his card prices have not been doing great since really the spring ended. Remember, him and Churio came out like gangbusters. The prices that you see here are over the last 30 days. I'll go ahead and expand this out. We have a lot of guys taking haircuts, not just Holiday. Wyatt Langford, also extremely hyped in the summer. Basically, it went Holiday and Churio, everyone was super gangbusters for them. And then the hype meter left them a little bit, and everyone was chasing Wyatt Langford. Season started, he's just been fine. I don't think he's hit a home run yet. I think he's batting like 260, 270 with a handful of RBIs and runs scored. I have him on a fantasy team. But his first Bowman down 46%. And these are all just base PSA 10 autos for the most part. J-Rod, notorious slow starter. He's down 25% on his base. Jackson Holiday, we see him there in a PSA 9, down 40%, and his PSA 10 is down 15%, under $1,000 now on his PSA 10. Jackson Churio, who has been absolutely fine, having a pretty good season, down 20% in his PSA 10. And then last but not least, one Jordan Walker, who has also been the struggle bus, much hyped last year as a prospect, and his stuff is down 20% as he was optioned back to the minors as well. Now, one of those is not sold since the 18th, so that's about 10 days ago at the time you were all watching this. I have to imagine his next sale is going to be quite a bit lower. Now, on the flip side, we do have guys going up in value. It's not all bad news. This is over the last 30 days. So basically, since the season has started, we just reorganized this chart really quickly. Some guys that gotten off to some hot starts. Juan Soto up about 10% on his PSA 10, but that's a pretty big card. So just to kind of see that thing move up at all is pretty strong. He has been off to a torrid start. Ellie De La Cruz, also PSA 10 first Bowman, having a fantastic start to the year. Absolutely killing the baseball. He is up 40%. Volpe, strong start to the season. He's up 42%. Bobby Witt, monster start to the season. He's up 20%. Paul Skeens, invest in pitchers at your own peril, but he is absolutely torching the minors, striking guys out left and right. He's up 20%. Colton Cowser, it really just kind of depends on when you bought in, but generally speaking, his stuff is up. This chart showing a little bit down because of the selective endpoints on this, but Cowser has been pretty hot the last couple of weeks as well. So some players, it's not all necessarily bad on. Ellie probably being the biggest winner so far this season of the higher end guys. Let's talk a little basketball really quick and then wrap this puppy up. For the most part, the market has not moved a ton on NBA players, at least in the going up variety. You know, like Luka's up slightly, Joker's up slightly, but huge jumps. We haven't seen it quite yet. The guys that have jumped are ones that you probably would be about 50th and 60th on your list to jump up in price. The first one is Josh Hart. He is up a ton. Since the playoffs have started, he has turned into a Knicks legend, at least in the first two games. The third game, he didn't play quite as well. But the games at the Garden, he is like the perfect Tom Thibodeau Nick, running around, doing everything, playing every single second of the game. His stuff is up a decent chunk. And then Pascal Siakam has been an absolute monster for the Pacers in this Bucks series. Looks like the best player on the court, quite honestly. His PSA 10 Silver Prism is up about 50% as well. Always been a very talented player. Watched him play a lot because the Cavs would run into them back in the LeBron days quite a bit. And then he kind of went quiet the last couple of years as they were, you know, a fringe playoff team and then out of the playoffs. But since the trade to the Pacers and since the playoffs started, he has been on an absolute tear. And you can kind of see, especially in that first game, he was like the one guy that was like, I have been here before. I understand how the playoffs work, while the rest of his team was figuring it out. Well, Pacers look like they figured it out the back half of this series, and I have a sneaking suspicion they are going to eliminate the Bucks very quickly here. No fault of them. I mean, Bucks are super banged up. It is what it is. The second Giannis went down with that calf injury, it was going to be tough, and now losing Lillard is going to make that even harder. They're probably going to have some interesting conversations in the offseason. My Cleveland Cavaliers are going to have some real interesting conversations in the offseason. They'll get their heads out of their asses against the Magic. They've looked like absolute trash the two games in Florida. Going to be a wild offseason if they get bounced by the Magic after they tanked to play the Magic. If they get bounced by the Magic, JB gone. The Mitchell situation is going to get messy. We'll see what happens with there. I would have to imagine this team is going to get a facelift one way or the other. I think the only way Mitchell would stay would be if they let him handpick the coach, essentially. And then who knows what in regards to whatever offseason maneuvers they make. I don't know if they would get drastic or not, but either maybe they would keep things the same and just run it back with a new coach. I don't know, but the current system is clearly not working. And even if they make it past the Magic, they have the Boston the next round. They are going to get smoked by the Celtics, most likely, assuming they can even make it past the Magic. So here's for your thoughts and comments, as always, down below. We will catch you boys and girls on the next one, which will be tomorrow for kind of the part 2 of the repacker thing that got pushed because of the PSA news and then the fake Wembies. So that video is on schedule for Monday, assuming nothing wild and crazy happens. I'll have a ComC mail day this week, and then whatever pops into my old noggin. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.